and I'm not generally someone who's like woo woo like that. I'm pretty cynical. I'm like nothing matters, like but I was like, oh my! It was like right then I was like, I'm supposed to be here. Like this was supposed to happen.
Hello and welcome back to No Substitutes, the show where I have on some of my favorite people and we talk about what ingredients make them who they are. And this week I actually have a very special guest. She was our pilot episode, which we will be releasing on the Patreon. You may know her from some spicy movies, but you also most of you probably know her as the professional party girl, DJ, and she's toured with some awesome comics, and she's just all around probably one of my favorite people. So please welcome Carter Cruz.
Thank you. You're also one of my favorite people.
Well, how are you?
I'm doing good, you know? Yeah.
I know, it's kind of crazy. The last time we did this was like, what?
A year ago, right?
Yeah, almost a year ago.
I think it was in actually November.
Oh, shit.
So literally a year ago.
Yeah.
Really a year ago.
Well,
So the man wait. I think it was actually November.
No, it was because it was like in November, but then we didn't record until February, wasn't it? That's what I'm trying to think.
Honestly, possible.
I don't know.
Okay, maybe your mansplaining was fair.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll take the L on that one.
We'll give you that.
All right,
Well, what's new? What have you been doing?
Honestly, not jack. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been a soul searching year for me.
Okay, 2024.
So yeah, I moved. I had to kind of like rebuild my whole life, and took a little eat, pray, love trip to Europe, and I've just been kind of trying to navigate like kind of where I'm going in my life. So yeah, that's kind of what's new. Just more mental illness. So
Yeah, it's never a wrong time to do some eat, pray, love.
yeah, no, never
No,
eat, pray.
eat, pray. Almost. What was that? I think 2 minutes.
We were so close.
I was like right on the dot at 2 minutes.
Oh yeah. It's okay. We'll bleep it. Yeah, so you went to Sardinia, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Is that one of the blue zones?
I have no idea.
I always mix up Sicily and Sardinia. I think
They're
Sardinia,
right there. I mean, it's like they're both islands.
both.
Like they're right there.
Yeah.
So I feel like so.
I
don't know.
I'm too scared to give an answer since I've been wrong all day long. So I'm just gonna go. I don't know.
It's
I have
okay.
no idea.
How was the food? I really
So
want to go
good.
there.
I was like thinking of you. I was like, you would love it. My favorite thing they have this. It's like agricultural like tourism. So they have these farms where you could actually stay on them. Obviously, I didn't stay on the farms, but it's like these farms that open their doors to like tourists to come in. So you can stay there, but they also do these dinners, and they're all like like a prefix type, like multiple courses, and you come in, you don't order anything, so you just come in, you sit down, and they just start bringing out plates, and those were my favorite places that we went to. I mean, the first one, there were two that we went to. One, I left like very full, but it was a little bit of a lighter meal, so I feel like within like 2 hours, I was like good to go. The second one we went to, so much cheese. I fell asleep I could barely keep my eyes open at dinner. It was like,
my God.
I was like feeling bad because I was with my boyfriend and his dad, and I was like, I feel like his dad's gonna think I'm hammered because I could barely keep my eyes open at
Hammered on
dinner, but I
cheese.
was just like food coma. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm so sorry if I fell asleep in the car. He was like, no, I get it, because it's kind of a long ride too. We were up in the mountains.
Okay.
And he was like, no. The minute I sat in the car, knocked out. Like the whole 40-minute ride back, I was just sleeping.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that was even the next day I was like, okay, maybe I eat a salad today. But yeah, that was really good. They have like this wild boar that's kind of like their specialty there.
Ooh.
That was really good. I'm a big pork fan, so
Nice.
it's kind of like similar, but a little flair.
A little flair, a little Italian flair. What about the seafood? Is it just fresh? What are you
Seafood was
eating?
big there. They were telling me that I guess in Sardinia it's like the cuisine there is like different from like mainland Italy. It's
sure.
very much like heavier on like the
It
seafood.
almost looks more like Mediterranean. Like
Yes.
almost like, just
I mean,
seafood.
it is Mediterranean. I mean, I guess no, it's not. It's what is it? A different sea? What is it called?
I wouldn't know.
Anyone over here? Barrack Sea? Is that it? Oh, I don't know. I sound like a fucking idiot.
Sea?
Baltic Sea. Something
Okay.
like maybe? Is that it? No, I don't think that's it.
I think the Baltic
no
Sea
idea.
is
I don't know.
more by...
Cancel me. I don't know my seas.
I think, yeah, same. I mean, I haven't
some
known
point in
seas.
middle school, I
yeah,
knew
I'm like,
them.
I haven't known seas since then.
I don't know, Mediterranean, Tyrrhenian,
Adriatic. It's
I
the
think it's
it's the
Tyrrhenian.
Tyrrhenian. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That sounds Sardinian.
Yeah, someone's gonna shit on me for
I
fucking
know, someone's gonna be in the
mispronouncing all of
comments.
this, but yeah,
It's gonna be your boyfriend.
Yeah,
He's gonna be like, "He's dumb. You guys are dumb."
yeah. Duolingo has not been serving me well, you know.
I thought you were on a hot streak.
I am, but you know, it's good to learn some vocabulary. I feel like it prepared me enough. I did 30 solid days before I went to Italy, and I feel like it at least made me like I could understand some stuff, and I could at least understand like the general gist of the conversation and be like get what people are talking about.
Yeah.
But I was definitely like relying heavily on the mans to like, you know, talk to people
Oh, for
because
sure.
we'd go like we were at a bar and I'm like, can you just order for me? Like
Yeah.
I knew what to say, but I didn't want to be like, especially since he's Italian, I don't want to be like the one person who's like, you know,
The white
like
girl that should.
you know, grazie, you know.
Have them be like roll
He's
their
mortified.
eyes.
Yeah, he's like, I could never bring her back here. Like,
Oh no. Well, all around looked like a great trip. All your freaking videos of like the crystal clear blue water.
beautiful.
Just,
Yeah, you got to go. I
I'm
learned how to
going.
catch an octopus.
when are you guys going next?
Yeah, we
I'll
caught
meet you guys
one.
out there.
Yeah, hopefully next summer.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he taught me how to like find where you go and you can look on the bottom of the ocean floor and you can see like where the octopus is like hiding.
Oh.
And it's actually illegal to it's illegal to catch them because you know like octopi. I think actually it's octopi or octopuses, which is weird. I googled it and it was like you could be either one. I was like, okay, kind of like octopuses.
Octopuses.
But you know they're like, you know, smart creatures like people like
Right,
so catching them, you know, whatever, they don't want people, it's a very protected area, so they don't want you really fucking with the wildlife. But you know, he's like, you know, lived there and it's like we were just catching it for a second, letting it go, but he was like, don't let anyone see that we're doing this. He's like, we're in a pretty like there's a lot of boats around, so he's like, I'm gonna go down because we like found the octopus. He's like, I'm gonna get it. But he's like, when we take it on the boat, like, you know, just like be low key about it because like it's not technically like legal to do this. But he's like, I want you to like experience like, you know, holding it and like interacting with it. And so I was like, okay, so we're trying to be we got it in the, you know, you got to get a bucket of water because it can't be out of the water too long. And we like bring it on the boat and immediately this just squirts its ink all over me. It was like, it was a black.
Oh my god.
I was like, okay, maybe that wasn't the best choice of words.
That's a flashback.
I was like, oh, so this is what we meant by low key. I'm just standing on the boat like,
No.
yeah, but
Oh my
so we
God.
were like, okay, he's stressed. Like, go back
He's
in the water.
stressed.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I know, I felt bad. But I feel like, you know, at the same time, it's like, it was good for me. I was like, oh, like I was so scared of them at first. And then I was like, oh, but
They're
now whenever I eat octopus, I have a moment of silence for its life. Mm-hmm. And that's why if someone cooks an octopus badly, I'm like, you should be put in jail because, you know, how dare you kill this intelligent, perfect creature and then not cook it right? You know, like you're just doing it no justice.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Horrible. Shame on you. Well, quite the introduction. Let's get into it then. What are 3 ingredients you would say you need for your profession?
3 ingredients. Okay. Mental illness.
Awesome. Yeah. good one.
Hugely beneficial. Oh no, I did think about these. I actually wrote them down
There you go.
because I knew I'm, you know, not always the smartest. Oh, okay. flexibility, or I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for.
Adaptability?
Versatility. I guess there's a bunch of words, but I feel like putting up with a bunch of is kind of, and I think that like I can handle a lot, you know?
Yeah, I think resilient is
Resilience.
what you're looking for. Yeah.
Yes,
You're
thank
like,
you.
putting up with a lot. I was like, okay, resilient.
I was like, I'm thinking of a lot of like not quite synonyms, but yeah. Okay, thank you. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Resilience. Because I think that, you know, and it's the same thing in adult, you know, but then in music, it's just like literally every show you go to, it's just like a million things are going to go wrong. You're going to have to change your flight last minute. Your flight gets canceled. They're like, we can rebook you, but now you're in a middle seat and you don't get to sleep type stuff, or like you got this crazy layover. And you just kind of have to be able to truck through it. Like be like, all right, and like stay positive through like the most horrible fucking situations, because you know, it's just when you're traveling for like to a city for 12 hours, like so many things can go wrong. Think about you take a 2-week long vacation, something could ruin your vacation. You're there for 12 hours and you're really condensing the time of like one thing goes wrong. And thirdly, I would say taste. I mean, taste is everything, because you know, it's like when you're DJing, sometimes people think they know what they want to hear, but they don't know because they don't have taste. That's why I'm there. That's why you paid me, you know? And I think people I always kind of laugh a little bit. I always ask, like, especially if I get booked for like a private party, obviously I want to cater to what that person wants. So I'm like, hey, I always like to ask people, send me a list of like 10 songs that you love, that you want to hear. Because from that list of 10, I can kind of get an idea of their taste and the vibe that they're looking for. But then I'm going to pull out shit that I think like fits that vibe and works for them. And I feel like, and then when people try to micromanage DJs, it's always so funny because I'm like, why? If you know that Spotify exists.
Right.
If you want explicitly like a certain type of genre, you can literally create a fucking playlist.
Or
on
even
Spotify.
look one up that somebody else already made.
Yeah, like, or you have AI generate it. Like, you
Yeah.
can be like, make me a playlist. It's done. Okay, you have that. Why are you pulling me in? Because I have taste. You don't. That's why I'm being paid.
That's why I'm
also,
here.
and also, if you're hosting a party, you as the host, your taste and your opinion matters. But because you're the person the party's for, but what about all the other people?
Yeah.
You know? And if you as the host have the best time because I play your Spotify playlist, no one else has a good time because they're like, I didn't hear my shit. So, you know, I always say, I'm like, hey, I'm going to take what you say and I'm going to absolutely integrate that. But I'm also going to do my own thing. And the minute you start coming over and starting to micromanage me, I'm going to tell you to put on Spotify because
you're like, I'm out.
I did my friend's birthday party recently and she had, you know, a vibe that she wanted. And I was like, okay, I'm going to integrate that. That's going to be some of the songs. It's not going to be exclusively 90s hip hop. That does not make sense for the whole group of people. And it was so funny because at the end she came up to me and she was like, well, you know, you didn't do exactly what I wanted, but everyone is thrilled. And I'm like, exactly, I did my job, right? Exactly. Because it's not, if you're throwing a party, it isn't just about you. It's about everyone there, you know?
I'm curious then, like,
sorry. This is a big bottle.
I have 2 questions because they might be similar answers. One is, what's your process then for when you're doing stuff like opening for Bert Kreischer? But also, which one's harder, like catering to a small party or like, you know, Bert, which is like arenas?
You know, I think arenas are probably easier because the more people you have, the more basic level you can get to. You're just trying to get to the root of what people love, sing-alongs, recognizable, you know, lyrics that people like. Whereas when you have a smaller group, it's going to be a little bit more specific of what they're like looking for. And when I was working with Bert, I kind of like, especially for Red Rocks, I was like, okay, how can I do, this is an iconic music venue and the Gorge as well. How can I pay tribute to that? I'm getting to DJ this iconic music venue, but it's also for, this isn't my show. And this is for people who are coming to a comedy show. So I made a bunch of edits and like stuff where I was trying to take like really popular like hip hop, you know, hooks and stuff, and then layer them with house beats And so you have that kind of electronic dancey feel to it, but with stuff that people recognize. So whether it's remixes or a bunch of edits, and then also throwing in, because it's Bert, some, America rock type shit,
Yacht rock?
Yeah.
Some dad rock.
Some dad rock. So
Love it.
taking like some dad rock, some hip hop, and some, electronic dance beats and melding those together. So it's stuff that everyone recognizes, everyone loves, but is presented in this way that's different and unique and still is like, not like, I'm not going to get up and just play the original of a song that's fuck you to Red Rocks. Like, right? As a DJ, I have like my artistic,
process.
Yeah, no. Not credibility, but you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Like it just my like need to, I don't know.
Yeah. For sure. Well, that's cool too. Like I never think about as a DJ like that you're also thinking about working with people like Bert, like about his brand and incorporating that.
Right.
So that's
his brand and then also my brand too. I always tell people, I'm like, I'm going to do me. Like I have a certain, I think all my sets, like from even the beginning, there's a style that I have. And that's why when you try to micromanage again, it's like you're stepping on my style. And why else am I here? You could get anyone to do this. So I want to be able to take my style, but also fit it. And that's why I actually love open format DJing. I of course, if you're a prolific producer who has just tons of music out and you can create this show that is entirely your music, that's amazing, right? With your visuals, that's an awesome thing. But I feel like, as a DJ, it's like you're taking other people's music, but putting it together in your own way. And that is also its own kind of magic.
Yeah.
And I never want to lose that. It's like I want to always stay true to myself, even while trying to fit it in for the crowd or whoever booked me and kind of make everyone happy. Because also too, if I'm not happy as a DJ, no one else is going to be happy because I'm the one who's setting the vibe. So if you're sitting there going, hey, play this, it's like I just feel like a jukebox and I don't want to be there. And my vibe is going to bring everyone else's down. So sometimes I play songs that is not correct for the venue. I would do this with Bert. I had this one remix that I would play during intermission every single show. It was the last thing I played right before they went back to the show. And that was for me. It's a tech house drop. It is just completely inappropriate to play. And it was so fun though, because I would be so excited to hear this drop. I love it. And I would get so hyped. And right then is when his daughter would come out and we'd throw the t-shirts out. Yeah. It was kind of the height of the energy. And I'm just going crazy. And so everyone, it's these people would never listen to this music in their home, but the energy is so high because I'm bringing it up. And so it kind of works, So sometimes I throw in those songs that I'm like, this isn't really appropriate, but this one's for me. Yeah. And if I'm happy, you're going to be happy.
Well, you're also part of the tour, Right. Everyone else gets to do their sets and
exactly.
do their comedy.
Yeah.
I should at least have my part.
Right. And sometimes
or it's just for me.
and sometimes you got to introduce people to things. People don't know what they want to hear until they hear it. And I love getting to do that till kind of you play some good sing along stuff that everyone recognizes, and then they trust you.
Yeah.
You have to build trust with the audience where they go, okay, if you start off the bat first song, a song they've never heard, they might be like, what the fuck's going on?
Right.
But you play some Nelly Furtado, everyone's vibing, they're singing along, and then you, bam, hit them with something, and they're like, I wasn't ready for that, but damn, I'm kind of fucking vibing,
I love that. I actually need to admit something. Recently, I was trying to look, because I've heard your sets, and I love your sets. I remember I heard one when you did the Mondrian. I literally spent hours one day on SoundCloud. So where are you? Because where can I actually find your music or your
the stuff
sets?
Yeah. I mean, my actual the stuff that I I have a bunch of mixes up on Audius.
Right.
I mostly take them off of SoundCloud because copyright stuff. So all the remixes constantly getting problems. Huge bummer. It's my mix series was massive. It had millions of plays, and I had to take them all down. So now they're on Audius with a few thousand plays. But don't judge me, okay? They were really popular, I promise.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was trying to find your mixes,
and there's a bunch on my Audius. And then as far as the stuff that I find, how I create dig, I mean, it's from everywhere. I mean, SoundCloud. Spotify is actually a great music discovery platform, which I was really resistant to for a long time, just because it was new. I grew up on YouTube and Spotify or in SoundCloud. And so when Spotify came out, I was like, fuck this. Like, I hate this new platform. You know, it's like TikTok. I'm like, I'm like old. I'm like, I don't like this new technology. Like, back in my day, we did things this way. But then eventually I grew to love Spotify because if you make a playlist of songs you really like, you can then be like, it just gives you all the songs that are like similar to those. And so it's a really good way to kind of like find stuff that's similar to you like. And then SoundCloud is just like unbeatable as far as like finding and then TikTok even and social media, people posting things. And I think as like, just knowing other people who make music, like if I'm ever at like a friend's thing and they're like, oh yeah, this is my edit. They probably didn't put it out on SoundCloud because it would get taken down, but you listen to that and I'm like, yo, can you send that to me? Yeah. So like that's the other way you find stuff. It's just by my friends and stuff.
Awesome. Before I ask this question, I'm going to let Chris be selfish because I know he was mentioning to me he's a fan of some DJs, and I was like, I don't know DJs, but Carter might. And tell her like the whole story.
Oh, so one of my favorite DJs of all time is Darude. Like he made Sandstorm, and that's what got me into EDM and just like listening to different DJs. And
iconic song.
Yeah. He actually randomly commented on one of our videos, and I didn't think it was him. I was like, whatever.
No way.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I like that guy too. Cool name. And then I kind of ignored it. And then he started getting replies to people like, oh, I'm such a big fan of your music. And then again, I was like, all right, our fans need to be a little bit smarter, okay? Like, this is just a fan.
You were gaslighting yourself.
Yeah, and then I clicked on his video, or on his name, and it brought to like his channel with all his music, and I was like, I can't believe this, and I rushed to like reply and be like, I was like, listen,
he's like, we should have him on.
I'm such a big fan of yours. It would be my dream if you come and do our podcast. And then I said like, also in high school, I used Sandstorm in one of my presentations, and I hope that's okay with you. And then, but it was like he like left it like a month or two ago. Or like when I replied to that, I was like, all right, he didn't see this. But I was so I was like, I can't believe
you missed your chance.
I missed my shot.
Fanboy out.
Oh my God, that makes me think. Like, I wonder if there's any cool little middle schoolers out there that are like, I use Carter Cruz mix to my presentation. That'd be so funny.
Honestly, possible, but like, hopefully they had some parental supervision during all of that.
Oh my God.
Sandstorm though, I mean, you played DDR, right?
I played a little bit of it, at the arcade.
My God, it's just like so like millennial coded, like Sandstorm, DDR, first time drinking, you're 14, you're drinking a Mike's Hard Lemonade, you're playing DDR to Sandstorm,
My God.
First of all, I don't like how accurate that description was of me, but yeah. Yes.
A lot of virginities were probably lost to Sandstorm in the I guess like early 2000s. It was like 2004, 2002.
Yeah, that's when I was in high school, like 2004. Wait, was I? I don't remember.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was born in 2002, so I wouldn't know.
How dare you?
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I'm a baby.
Yeah, I'm also extremely jealous that you got to like even perform at the Red Rocks. That's like on the top of my bucket list.
It's stupid, honestly.
It's so iconic.
Like me, what am I doing there? I would, I was like, I would never get to achieve this through, I'm not some prolific producer. The fact that I got to do that and the Gorge is, I think, two of my favorite moments. Which, like, thank you, Bert Kreischer, for that because. I was just like, I have no business being here, which is how I felt like a lot of my career is just being in places that I'm like, I have no business being here, but yet I'm here. So I'm going to deliver and I'm going to do my thing and I'm going to enjoy it. But, the energy was just unbeatable, that just like, it was crazy because I couldn't see too much of what was happening because of the lights. So, like that's the cool thing about being on like a stage. Like, a lot of times at clubs, you're really like there with the crowd. But when you're like, if you're acting in a play or something, you get these lights on you that kind of makes you in your own little world. So I couldn't see a lot of what was happening. I could feel the energy, but I couldn't see a lot of what was happening. And also too, I was so nervous. And I tend to kind of, even if I'm looking up, I'm not really looking. It's kind of like that, like you're glazed over. Like, you know, I'm just looking at the lights. I'm pretending I'm looking at a wall because I would get over, you know, the first 10 minutes, I think I was scared to even look up. You know, I was like just looking down and I was like, all right, you got to like perform. Like you got to look up. And I'm like, all right, do it, you know? But then it was cool to see after like the videos of what was happening in the crowd because they had Bert's like, a little mascot running around and they were doing this like tops off cam. So like, you know, big dudes were flashing their titties on like the big screen. So I couldn't see any of that because the screens were, you know, behind me. So I couldn't see any of that, but I could just feel the energy of the crowd when people were like, wow, you know? And so I was like, I have no idea what's happening out there, but it sounds like everyone's having a good time. So it was cool afterwards seeing the videos and being like, oh, cool. I had no idea that was happening.
And before I shut up, I do want to say that you being there definitely wasn't an accident. You definitely deserve to be there.
Thank you.
And you're extremely talented.
And I'm still working through my imposter syndrome.
Yeah, well, that's what makes you so good.
Yeah,
Like, you know?
I feel like there's a little magic to imposter syndrome. I think it's something that will always keep people humble or like, you know.
True, I'll never be completely cringe, but you know, probably won't be as successful as I could be either. And I think isn't that such an interesting thing about being you know, if you have complete confidence in yourself, a delusional, then you're kind of an unlikable person. But I kind of always respect those people because I'm like, fuck, I wish I had that kind of delusion. Like, you know?
Kanye.
But yeah, right, exactly. It's like, you're like, I kind of respect
love yourself like Kanye loves Kanye.
Right. And I try to remind myself of that. But, you know, because I am a normal person, I'm like, oh, you know, and I go back and forth. I'm like, which one would I rather be? Like, would I rather be a grounded, like self-aware person that is like, you know, I'm like proud of who I am, but maybe I don't achieve as much? Or do I want to be a complete fucking psychopath but I achieve everything? You know, I think striking a happy balance between those two things is like, because some people go so far one way and some people go so far the other way. I know so many talented, amazingly talented people who limit themselves constantly, like more than I do, because they're more talented than I am, and they limit themselves more because of that imposter syndrome. And so you have people on both sides of the spectrum, and I think like walking that like thin line of like, okay, like I got a little delusion, but I'm still grounded and have some self-awareness is really difficult, and that's what we're all trying to do, you know?
For me, what always makes me feel really good about myself is if you think about the kid version of you. Like if the kid version of you met you, they would probably be like, damn, this is the life. Like you're just like you were a small town girl from North Carolina. Like imagine Lil Carter coming up to you and being like, this is our life now.
Right, yeah, no, like the things I've gotten to do, and I always try to remind myself of that. It's like, you never thought you were going to get to like do these things. So, and sometimes they become kind of like normal, you know, you normalize them and you're just like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I haven't achieved what I want to achieve. I'm, you know, and then but if you look back, it's like, and I think I always do have that. I'm very proud of the things I've done and I feel good about them. And of course I'm human, so I go through those times of being like, it's not enough, like, you know, but you're right. When you think about it from your like kid me would be like, what the fuck? We get to do that? You know? Like, that's crazy, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I love that. And then also just thinking about, I don't know, for me, a big thing is like comics, like the amount of comics that I'm friends with that I grew up watching is so weird.
Right.
Like I always forget like, oh, I was a fan of you.
Oh yeah, no, that's
And then you're like, I'm just here having a beer with
hanging out. Yeah.
Yes, or on tour. Like,
Yeah, this is one of my favorite little moments was this producer. It was like a producer and a singer. And they were never hugely famous. They're from New Jersey. But back in like the indie sleaze era, like 2012, they were like they were really popular, like Northeast Coast type vibe. And I think I discovered their first ever little thing they put on Facebook that was like, but they would do covers of stuff, or they would do really cool kind of content, like where it'd be like they made a whole song out of like using only like Natty Light beer cans to like make the beat and stuff, or they did like a Beastie Boys thing where there was all the titles of Beastie Boys songs and the guy's freestyling, but he has to like pull out of out of a hat, like the name of a Beastie Boys like track, and then like, you know, use it in his freestyle. And so they did a bunch of cool stuff like that. And then they started making more pop music. That was like their original stuff. Okay. And I actually went and saw them in concert on they were called Time Flies. And I went and saw them in concert for my 22nd birthday, I think. And like my best friend took me and like we like drove. I remember we waited outside their tour bus to like meet them. I was saying they weren't like hugely famous, you know. This was kind of like a small like niche thing, and we didn't get to meet them that night. But then years later, you know, like haven't listened to Time Flies in so long because they kind of like went their own ways, I think, and doing their own thing. And I'm out in LA and I'm playing in Santa Monica, like just some kind of like day party that my friend was throwing, and so I just like jump on a DJ, and this other DJ that I had been kind of a cap slap that I had been a fan of in college that I'd actually become friends with, he knew those guys and they had been out in LA, and so he brought them to my thing. And the producer from Time Flies came up to me after my set. He was like, "Hey, were you DJing earlier?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Oh, I fucking loved your set." And I was like, "Oh my god, like I'm such a fan." Like, and it's like he's not so famous where he wouldn't think like, "Oh, this." I'm like, I watched you guys like first ever fucking song on like I'm like one of your OG fans and you have no idea. And I remember he was like the guy I was dating at the time, you know, he's like, "Oh, you guys want to come back to my house? We're doing a cookout." So we went back to his house, and I'm like, I was texting my best friend like from college. I'm like, "This is so crazy." Like I was like, I'm at fucking Time Flies house. Like, you know, like to anybody else, it's not necessarily like that crazy, but to me it was like, oh wow, like
that's what matters. It's like you think about all these other versions of yourself and then how far you've come. That's always what makes me feel like really good and kind of like trip out on life for a second. Yeah. I feel like as adults and as people in entertainment, we start to normalize it. We start to take some things for granted and we start to forget like because you don't want to be like always like, "Oh, this is so fucking cool." But then you think about that version of you and you're like, "No, this is fucking cool.
Yeah,
I'm fucking cool. Yeah, they think I'm fucking cool."
And it's good to never like lose that excitement, that like childlike wonder at like, this is so cool, you know, like, and this is exciting, and I'm gonna enjoy that instead of, you know, I don't know. Yeah.
What did you want to be when you were a kid?
I mean, you know, I wanted to be a performer. Like deep down, always wanted to act. That's, you know, that's always what I really wanted to do. But, you know, that was told that that's not a thing that you can do. So everyone's like, "Oh, okay," my dad's like, "That's cute, but like, what do you really want to do?" And I actually, for a long time, I planned on going to law school, and I actually wanted to be in politics. So which is kind of like the Hollywood of the East Coast, you know, if you think about it. I was like, okay, well, it's like acting, but you know, it pays a government salary. My dad will love that. Yeah. So I won't just be a barista, you know. So yeah, that was my plan, was to go to law school and then you know, practice. I was really passionate about like the Innocence Project, and I wanted to be like start out as like a defense attorney and like do that kind of stuff, and then like use that to kind of like work my way into politics. And then I got really disillusioned with that whole, you know, I've realized that policy is hard to change, right? And the only reason that policy changes is that culture changes. And you can be someone. If you're a politician, you're just reacting to culture. Like, think about it like whether it's like gay marriage or abortion, it's like for so long, it takes most of America saying we believe in this until a politician will be like, "Okay, I'm on board." Like even, you know, 10 years ago, politicians were really walking on eggshells about weed, abortion, gay marriage, all this type of stuff. They're saying, you know, and it wasn't until a majority demands it that then the policy gets enacted. And so I thought, why be one of those people that's waiting for culture to change so that I can change policy when I could be someone who's pushing culture forward and changing the mindset of society, and then let the politicians handle the fucking, you know, at the end of it, you know? Yeah. Like, I'd rather be the person really changing things, not just rewriting based off what people want, you know?
It's a great answer.
Thank you.
I was just so many people go, oh, rock star. What was family dinner like for you?
Oh, family dinners were great at my house. That was something we really tried to, my dad worked, long hours, not crazy. I mean, he worked at IBM. It wasn't like, but he definitely would come home late a lot of times. And me and my sister did a bunch of activities. So we didn't have family dinner every night, but we did. That was something that was like a focus in our family to like try and have, at least some nights everyone sit down at the dinner table together. My parents like no phone. Like if someone calls the house during dinner, it's not getting answered. We didn't have cell phones then because I'm old. And my dad would, I was homeschooled until high school. So, we'd spend the day like learning with my mom, and then my dad would come home and during dinner, he liked to like quiz us and like what we learned that day. And my dad was always listening to some audio book, on his long drives to work. He would always like have something he liked, to listen to like history type stuff, like non-fictional type stuff. So he would always have a lot of interesting stuff, whatever he had been listening to on his audiobook that day, he would share with us. So family dinners were definitely very much like we would debate topics. It was very much an information exchange and a learning, very engaging type of dinner. And I'm very grateful for that.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys still do that or?
My parents live out of the country. My sister lives out of the country. So yeah.
I didn't know they moved out of the country.
Yeah. They retired in Costa Rica. They might be moving back soon. They're looking at houses. But I think they're getting a little older. They're like, okay, maybe we aren't not, just adventuring around in the jungle anymore. But yeah, they're coming, but we definitely still like, that my family has always like really encouraged like discussion and even like rules as a kid, they'd be like, okay, this is your curfew, but you were always allowed to challenge. It doesn't mean that they're going to agree with you, but you could be like, okay, I know my curfew is this time, but tonight, this is why I believe, you come in with the presentation. This is why I believe that tonight my curfew should be extended. And sometimes my parents would be like, you made some good points. We'll extend it. Other times they'd be like, no, like, that's just like, it's not going to fly. Like, and I like that because it wasn't that they just like let me do anything I wanted, but I was never, and if they did say that's just the rule because we're your parents and we said so, that was used occasionally. Mm-hmm. It wasn't always the norm where it's just like you do what we say and you can never challenge it. And you were always welcome to challenge as long as, you understood that at the end of the day, they made the final decision. So
the desire to go into politics is making a lot more sense now.
I love a good argument, Mm-hmm. My boyfriend's not a big fan of that, All the guys I date are like, damn, this bitch loves to fucking argue.
Or discuss. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm like, we're talking, okay? It's not a fight.
Uh-huh. Don't get upset.
Yeah, it's only a fight when you get upset.
Yeah. Who are some people you would say that have influenced you the most or like grown as a person the most?
I always have a difficult time with this question because, of course you have my parents or, whatever, the basics that
of course
anyone would say. I don't know if there's any specific people. I feel like almost everyone that I interact with, mm-hmm. I think helps me grow as a person. I am very curious and, I've had conversations with Uber drivers that have like completely fucked my brain. I'm just like shook after like, holy shit. Just for instance, because I talk to everyone. I love a good yap sesh.
She's a yapper.
Yeah. I had this Uber driver once that he had, when Egypt had that big they went and did the big fucking, everyone came out in the streets. It was a protest and they like basically like took down the government. This was like, and then like, it was kind of a coup thing. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I was young at the time, but I had this Uber driver, the years after he had actually fled. He had been part of that like resistance in Egypt and he had to flee the country. and he's living here now, and he was working on a book and about it, and I honestly kind of thought he was bullshitting when he was telling me this at first, and I looked him up and I found like a news article that like quoted this kid, right?
Oh my God.
But and this was the most fascinating 40-minute Uber drive of my life. I mean, I was like, this guy, he went out of his way to try and like take down a government, because of what he believed in. I was like, that is the craziest, so many, and you would never think that someone you just randomly is driving you home after, I think I was on a porn set, and so it's just like, I feel like so many people I interact with, I learn so many just interesting things or perspectives, and I don't know. I don't know if there's any one person I can like point to. I think it's like a constant thing for me.
Yeah. I think one of the most admirable qualities about you is how open you are to everything. Learning, people, like you're very welcoming, have that energy. So.
Hey, who am I to judge? I don't know shit. Sometimes even the things I think I believe so hard, someone, I'll be like, I don't know, maybe I'm the crazy one, like I'm always willing to consider that I'm fucking wrong about something and that I could learn something. And I do very much value that trait. So.
Yeah.
Did that Uber driver happen to be in Vegas? Because I had a very similar experience with the Uber driver.
No, he was in
Vegas.
LA, but
Okay.
I mean, possible that he went there. I wish I could remember the guy's name. Like, I mean, he was a legit person. It was fucking crazy. He was like the son of like a government official too.
Whoa.
But he said since he was like younger, he had been friends with like all these kind of like, like street kids, right? And that he was always kind of this rebellious, like he was a very privileged. But he was always friends with these people that weren't, so he knew like the struggles of the people, and he always really like empathized with them, and so that's why he didn't like get like arrested, I think, because of his like connections in his family, but he had to flee the country because of his part in this. And I just thought that is crazy. Like, you're someone, you didn't have to do that. And you were just like, no, like my friends, like I fuck with them and like, and I mean, and I don't want to make any comments on whatever happened because I don't know the actual politics of that or who was right or whatever. Like
this man's story.
But I respected it. And I just thought, wow, that like I thought I had a crazy life. Like that's fucking nuts, And I was like, you should write a book. He's like, that's what I'm fucking doing. So I don't know, maybe one day it'll come out. I'll be like, that guy was my Uber driver.
That'd be insane. Well, okay. I mean, I like that answer for people. What about a life event that shaped you or like, really added to the seasoning of who you are?
The seasoning. Okay. I'm like, I hope I didn't tell you. This is on the Patreon version of this. Sorry, I don't remember. It was a year ago.
Matter.
But if it's a life-changing event, it's like obviously going to come up again. Everyone's like, get a new story. I'm like, sorry.
Sorry, not much has changed.
I don't have that many
year.
life-changing events. This is kind of a, I don't know what this specific event in it is, but when I was like 15, I walked into Barnes & Noble. I love to read. Yeah, my family, we didn't have TV, brain candy. So we didn't have TV in my house, but my parents were always so big on books. Any book I wanted to, we go to the library, check out 100 books. If I go to Barnes & Noble, any book I wanted to buy, that was like fair game. So it always, and we lived right next door to a Barnes & Noble at the time, which, for the Gen Zs out there, it was a thing called a bookstore. They sell books. They don't have those anymore.
They also had a cafe inside. Sometimes.
Yeah. Mine had a Starbucks.
Always.
Mine has Starbucks.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the cool place to go hang, get a coffee when you were like 15.
I feel like they need to bring Barnes & Noble back because I just when I would go, same with you, we were kids. But nowadays, if I went, I would just be waiting for like a meet cute to happen.
Right? No, 100%. Yeah, I know. I never met any cute boys at the Barnes & Noble in high school. I think it's because I was from the South. I don't think there were too many like little...
The heartbreakers.
Yeah. Yeah, so right. Yeah, that would be a bookstore. Great place to meet a guy. Or like, okay, he reads. He's got something going on up there. But I remember I walk in, it was like in the teen section or whatever. And there was this book And it was called Dear Diary, and the cover of it was it was a photo, and it was a girl with a bloody tissue stuck in her nose, right? Kind of making this face. It's called Dear Diary, and something about the photo really, I just was like, what's that, I'm so innocent at the time. Never tried any drugs, virgin. I don't even know if I had kissed a boy at this point. Like, I was very innocent. And I pick up this book because this picture just screams at me. And it was this, it's a diary this woman kept from the time she started in like 6th grade and into her 20s. And she actually becomes addicted to heroin and goes to rehab twice. And so it's not just her diary entries. She takes basically her best diary entries, like her most interesting ones. And then she also writes kind of a response. So, she would be like, analyze like, okay, like during this time. So the first entries are her in 6th grade being like, oh, the cool girls at school don't want me to, they kicked me out of their friend group, like child things that you worry about. And then as the book progresses, it becomes more, she gets addicted, she starts partying, she's doing all these different drugs, gets addicted to heroin, and, is dealing with that addiction, getting clean and then relapsing. And so you see this just like person go from a child into this full-blown drug addiction. And I just really appreciated her reflections on it. She would be like, she was like, during this time in my life, I was a piece of shit. I didn't care about my friends dying. All I cared about was getting my next fix. Or she would go back and talk to people that she talked about in her diary and be like, what was your version of this story? Because this is what I wrote in my diary, but like, I know I was kind of a fuckhead at the time, and people would be like, sometimes like confirm her story or like whatever. And I thought that was the most fascinating thing. I love nonfiction. But not only were you getting kind of like her telling the story from her past self, but then her present self having this analytical, and I was just like, this is the best thing I've ever read. I still own the book. I still have it at my house, the same copy that I picked up. And I read that and I was like, first of all, I was like, I want to write and I want to live a life that is worth writing about. I want to do something like this. And the other thing was that she was actually a writer when she was getting out of her heroin addiction. She started working for Vice, which at the time, before now, Vice is some corporate shit. But back in the day, it was a zine started by a bunch of ex-heroin addicts. So that's why she could get a job there. And she had actually a column called Dear Diary. That's what it turned into her book, kind of.
Very Carrie Bradshaw.
Yeah. So I started reading Vice because, and in the South, I would have never been exposed to Vice if I hadn't picked up, because now everyone knows about Vice, but in the 2000s in the South, no one knew about Vice. And so I was exposed to reading a bunch of different stuff, and that's actually how I read an interview with a porn star in Vice. I had never watched porn, I had never, thought about porn really, and I read this interview with a porn star, and I was like, her life sounds fucking cool. And that's literally how I ended up in porn, and this is some crazy shit. Sorry, I'm taking this like so long, but this is actually so.
This is what we want.
So I start doing, and I'm out here in LA. And when I first came out here, I was doing really well in Florida with the amateur stuff. I came out to LA, and I didn't really have a look. I didn't have a fat ass or big titties, or I didn't look like a super tiny teen.
And you got in when like the bimbo look was still there.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, and I didn't have I just kind of had this girl next door, but not like, just kind of normal. And so it wasn't like people, my photo, and also I'm never been like a huge like photo person. So, and I was just, when I first came out here, I was like not getting any work, and I didn't have any friends out here. I was living in this shit fucking room I rented up in Mission Hills. Horrible. And, I was just pretty fucking depressed. And I was like, oh my God, like I was a straight A student. And I just blew up my whole fucking life to do porn. And I'm not even going to be successful at it. Like, this is bad. Like, I may have made a pretty bad error here. And so I was kind of going through it. Mm-hmm. And then, things started. How my whole adult career happened is that I remember one set that one of the first scenes I shot out here, I think I was the 7th girl they called in that day. These girls kept canceling.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a huge movie, and I was like the 7th person they brought in. And then it's like, that's kind of what would be happening. I would be filling in for girls that didn't show up, and then they'd be like, wait, we like you. We're going to book you again. So things had started to pick up, but, I still wasn't, I think it was like right when I signed with Spiegler, so he books me for a photo shoot for like a fetish magazine. And I go to the photographer's house, right? And this was right when I'm like, did I fuck my life? Like, things were starting to go better, but I was still like, what am I doing here in LA? Like, I don't have any friends, like, don't really have a career. And I walk in to this photographer's house, and this is the craziest thing. I walk in, and right by his front door, there's a picture hanging on the wall, and it's a girl with a bloody tissue in her nose.
Oh my.
But in the full photo, she's actually naked, and she's a sex worker, and was photographed, and they took just her face shot for the cover of this fucking book. And I know, this is crazy. And I'm standing there like in shock. And he's like, "Are you good?" And I'm like,
I need a minute.
I would not be standing in your house right now if it were not for that photo. Like, I can track back every decision that, like, it all, walking into Barnes & Noble that day and seeing that photo, and it made me feel something, and I picked up that book, and that started me on this just, journey. And seeing that, it was one of those moments where you go, oh my God, everything's connected. Like, everything happens for a reason. And I'm not generally someone who's like woo-woo like that. I'm pretty cynical. And I'm like, nothing matters. Like, but I was like, oh my, it was like right then I was like, I'm supposed to be here. Like, this was supposed to happen, because it's not like this is some iconic photo that everyone knows. This was so specific. I had seen it twice in my life on that book, and when I walked into that thing, and that was one of those just moments of being so. As far as influential moments, I feel like just picking up that book was that.
I feel like not even leading you to doing porn, but like it led you to being a creative, like wanting to take, like you said, you felt something when you saw that photo. You felt something reading all that, and you were innocent. So it wasn't like you could really connect to her experiences.
Right.
But if you're at least an intuitive or an empath, you could read that stuff and still like tap into some emotion and like resonate with her. So it's crazy. I feel like even that is why you do DJing, why you do writing, and I don't know. That's insane, though.
Just trying to feel something, you
Yeah,
know?
I think
in this cold, dead heart.
Yeah. That's a crazy story. I don't think you definitely did not share that.
Okay,
last
I wasn't sure if I did.
time.
I don't even know if I've ever told that on a podcast. It's like something that I like tell people a lot because it's like fucking nuts, but it doesn't always like come up in like these types of combos. So.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing. That's a really amazing story. Well, what is something you wish more people noticed about you?
You know, just like how fucking cute and perfect I am. Fuck. This should have been in like the think about it before questions. I don't know. I feel
We
like
could also skip it.
I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty loud, so I think people tend to notice what I want them to notice.
Yeah. You're very upfront.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you don't notice it, I'll tell you you're not noticing it, you know?
Well, there you go. She's like, nothing. There's
don't know.
nothing on there. What would you say is the most important thing to you right now?
You know, actually, that's something that I've been trying to really figure out this year as I go through this whole kind of, you know, I think being in my 30s, I'm trying to kind of reassess what matters to me in life. And I think, you know, for so long, it was that like life experience, like is seeking feeling to, I want to feel the worst things, the best things. I wanted the extremes. I wanted to know what things felt like. I wanted to understand people and understand human nature and psychology and behavior. I wanted to feel it all. And I don't know, now I'm kind of at this point where I'm like, I think maybe I did enough of that, you know? Maybe like now I'm finding joy in these like smaller things. Like, you know, I've been cooking a lot and
I've seen that.
Yeah, I've been cooking a lot and just kind of these like building a home and, you know, and just, I don't know, like focusing on my health and stuff like that. And which is probably partially just getting older. You're faced with your own mortality. Your back starts hurting all the time, and you're like, maybe I should do something about that. So I don't really know what the most important thing is to me, you know, right now. And that's kind of like the journey I'm on, but it definitely is shifting, you know, from previous years. I think I'm kind of more the simple joys in life, you know, just being present in the moment. These small things that I think for so much of my life I thought boring, you know, and now I'm like, oh, maybe this is what life is about, you know, maybe. And part of me is like, oh, did I fuck up? Like wanting all, but I don't think I would have come to that realization if I hadn't experienced all those things, you know?
Most people wait to live and then have midlife crisis. So I think
I did the opposite.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, do I want a baby? You know, now I'm calling my mom like, man, like, you know, the whole stay-at-home mom thing, like that was you're kind of a fucking genius. And it's like, it's weird because I'm having a midlife crisis, but it's the opposite, you know? Instead of buying a sports car and like cheating on my wife, I'm like, should I go get my fertility tested?
And making all these like super dank at home cooking. Going to Sardinia. I think, I wouldn't say that's like a bad answer at all. I think you're on the right
answer.
I think, can we get retake?
Come up with a new one.
No, but I think you're on the right path.
I hope so. Yeah, fingers crossed, you know.
Well, it's also, I mean, it's your path. It's not like, it's so funny. I don't know. The older we get, I think we start to realize, especially nowadays, how it's just, we gotta do our own thing. There's no right way to do this.
Right, yeah. There is no right way. Just whatever way you want to do it.
Yeah.
But but then it's hard enough to come to that realization. But once you come to that, then it's like, well, what do I want?
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I don't know, but I kind of like those time periods in my life, you know, even though maybe sometimes you feel a little lost. I think because now I'm old enough, I can look back on my life and see those other times that I felt very lost and felt very confused. And what am I doing? You know, and at the time, you know, it would be like the end of the world. And then you get through it. And usually those times in my life that I'm the most lost come right before like a very productive, like focused time in my life. And so now I think this little slump I'm giving myself more grace than I've ever given myself during that time period, because I think I'm just like, you know, we've done this. We've done this a couple times. You know, we've been here. We've been in the trenches going, what the fuck am I doing? And there's always been a moment like seeing that fucking photo in that photographer's house going like, no, I'm doing it. Like I'm on my own path, and whatever I'm choosing to do is what's right for me. So it's nice to have a little bit, I'm not beating myself up in the same way that I have, you know, in previous times of feeling like what is important to me, you know?
No, for sure. I got one more food question.
Hell yeah.
What would your death row meal be?
My death meal?
Death row.
My death row meal, okay. My death row
meal.
Yeah.
Like
honestly, I knew what you meant. I just you missed the row part. Ooh. Do I have to pick now? Can we wait until like the day of?
Like, I'll call you guys.
I feel like,
I mean, honestly, just from me and you cooking together or me cooking for you, I'm surprised you haven't said A5.
So yeah,
Just
so
a big
A5,
A5
just
steak.
some simple fucking steak. That would definitely that would probably be a top one.
I just remembered that for the pilot episode, you actually brought A5.
Yeah. We
I just remembered that right now.
Yeah, I did.
That's so funny.
That's like been our thing.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, yeah, but you know, I also am I am a little fucking smash burger fiend.
Ooh.
So I feel like it would depend on the mood, you know? Because sometimes you're like, oh, I want like a steak.
Right.
And then like, or like a fucking smash burger. I think those got to be like my top two. Like, I mean, sushi, always good, but I don't know if I would want sushi like before I die. You know, like it's like let's load up on the fats and the carbs because it doesn't matter now.
I was gonna say, I'm like, it's a meal, so it can be as much food as you want.
Ooh,
and then think
true.
about, I was gonna say, think about back to the feeling that you had when you were in Sardinia after eating all that cheese.
Right.
I feel like I would want something that would put me in that comatose state.
Right. True. Exactly.
So-
Right. Yeah. Exactly. You eat like some sushi and you're like, wow, I feel like I could go out right now. Like, no, you're dying.
You're dying. So sorry.
Yeah, that's true. After that dinner, I feel like if you had been like, all right, we're going to inject you with some stuff, I would have been like, okay, I'm ready. Take me away.
Yeah.
So maybe that actually, that specific dinner, you know,
Yeah.
I think the first course they brought us out, it was just each person a brick of ricotta drizzled in honey.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was amazing. But and you know, I'm never been a cheese person, so this was huge for me to like actually like some cheese. That was, and then they brought us also it was some kind of pecorino, but they had melted it on this. It's a traditional like Sardinian bread. It's like this flat, crispy, like kind of cracker thing, and then they melted the pecorino on there. That was amazing. But this was the thing that I was like, it actually was my least favorite thing because I don't like goat cheese and it had goat cheese in it. I didn't hate it. If it was the only thing they served us, I would have eaten it. But I was like, you know, since we have so much food, I feel like I'll eat a couple bites and like I'm good. I could definitely taste they call it like a cheese soup, but it's not really cheese soup. They take that crispy like bread that they have and they layer it like a lasagna with all different types of cheeses. So there's like, you know, multiple cheeses in there. And then they pour a cheese broth, which I don't know what the fuck that is. I don't want to know. Sounds horrifying. Over it. And then they bake it. So it's not really a soup because by the time it comes out, so it's kind of like a mac and cheese, but instead of pasta, you have this thin, crispy bread that's been soaked in the broth and then baked. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, if you like cheese, you would fucking love it. I thought it was good. I just could definitely, I get that like little goat cheese in my nose. I was like, this definitely is goat cheese. I don't like it. But I think I was like, that was it was like, oh my God, they're like 7 different kinds of cheese in a cheese broth. Like, yeah, that's putting you to,
lot.
That's putting you to be, yeah, that's putting you to bed.
I'm surprised that didn't kill you.
Probably because I ate 3 bites and gave the rest to my boyfriend. So I was like, it's his favorite thing. So I was like, instead of forcing me to eat it all,
and
you know?
he's Sardinian, right?
Yeah.
So his body can probably like really just process it.
When we were there too, he was like, I was like, oh my God. Like, he was like, by the way, we don't eat like this like all the time when we're here. He's like, basically all these restaurants I'm taking you to, he's like, this is usually something that we spread out over like 2 months and we're doing it in 2 weeks because he wanted me to try all these places. But I was like, okay, because I was like, oh my God, like, you know, how do you eat like this every day? And they're like, no, we're just trying to cram all the spots into like a shorter trip. So I was like, okay, that's good to know. So if I come back for longer next time, I won't just be like being rolled around the streets.
Oh my God. Yeah, no. I think we have some producer questions.
Yeah, we do have some producer questions. But first, I was wondering, do you know of the DJ duo Sunday Scaries?
Yeah.
I
have heard of them. I feel like I know some of their songs. Who are those people?
I don't really remember their names because I just kind of like know from their music, but I feel like musically you guys would vibe so well.
Yeah, I'm like, do I know them? I'm like, this sounds so familiar. Wait.
Their Instagram page is We Are Sunday Scaries.
Interesting. Sunday Scaries.
Yeah.
I don't follow them.
I think that, I don't know.
I feel like I definitely have one of their remixes or something.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I don't know them personally, so I'm so scared of saying that. They're like, you know,
Right.
off when they're not making music, not being cool, but you know, maybe
I'm gonna like DM them and be like, hey, I'm on a podcast and they said that we should be friends.
Yeah. Okay. That was just it. Now we have a couple. We have a couple questions.
Being that you were a debutante, are there any qualities that you still hold on to from that?
From being a debutante. Oh, I mean, definitely. I mean, I'm from the South, you know, so it's a politeness. I feel like was definitely. I'm a very like, you know, honestly, that's why I always like as long as they never find out that I did porn. Like, I'm so like, your parents will love me. You know? Like, yes, ma'am. No, sir. Like, oh, like I'm going to help clean up the dishes. Like, I know which fork to use at like a fancy dinner. So I guess I did retain some of that kind of polite society stuff. And actually one of my favorite parts about being a debutante is that we got put together with, girls in that, I don't know what we call it, like a class or whatever, I don't know, put together with other debutantes, and you had to like plan a party for like all the other debutantes. And that, I feel like that, is just right up my alley. And we did a really cool party because some girls just did like dance. It was like, but it's like lame because it's all polite society, so you can't really turn up. So I'm like, why are we gonna do like a party? So we actually, my group, which this was my idea, we rented out a spa, and we did just a girls' day instead of doing it with a date. And it was like a brunch thing, and we had brunch catered, like this really delicious, like French toast, like casserole type stuff, And then we had like some musicians playing some like live music there. And every girl, like, you got to pick one service, like, so either like, your nails, a massage, or a facial. And you picked that before. And it was at this really cool spa that was like an old house. And so everyone came, and like everyone's hanging out and eating brunch, and then people would get called for theirs. So it was, instead of it being like this party, it was like a girls like spa hang day. But I feel like that was like my first, like, I've always, even as like in middle school, we always had like the big like New Year's Eve party at my house, that was like, since I was like 10 years old, like, I've always been like, I want to do a party. So, so the debutante stuff definitely fed into that.
The only time I've ever heard about debutantes is watching She's the Man.
Yeah. Yeah. In my hometown too, it was a little different because in some places it's like old money, which I don't want anyone to get the impression that I'm old money and not. I wish. But in my hometown, it was more like scholastic achievement type stuff. So it wasn't, obviously I wouldn't say that but so it was kind of like they picked people based off like your community involvement, like, people who were volunteering. And like I did these huge blood drives for the Red Cross when I was in high school. We actually were like won an award for like the most blood like collected. Yeah. So I'm a universal donor, and my mom has been giving blood since we were kids. We'd always go with her to the thing. And so then in high school, my lacrosse team, I got them to do it. So we would do it. And it was actually so fun because every year we do it, one in the spring and one in the fall. But if you signed up to give blood, you got to get out of class and go to the gym, and there's stacks and stuff. So it was really easy to get people to sign up, because you'd be like, hey, you want to get out of third period biology and come give blood? And everyone's like, hell yeah. So it was like, and it was kind of like the event of everyone looked forward to it. Like everyone's getting to hang out in the gym. And then we were just killing it, because we'd just sit out by when everyone's leaving for lunch. We'd be like, hey, next Friday, you gonna give blood, signing people up. So yeah, we actually won a little award at like our state, like the most blood collected in the state or something. So yeah.
Most
So
blood.
random little side story. Yeah,
Love that.
Some lore.
Some more.
Yeah, we do have one more question.
So have you ever DJ'd somewhere where like the vibe was like super weird and like
Bad.
Yeah. You just like couldn't recover from it or couldn't fix it?
There must have been one, but something about me is I'm very good at compartmentalizing. If I don't like something that happened to me, it just didn't happen. I think there's definitely been some times that it started off weird. Usually, I will say every time that the vibe, I don't like what's happening, it's because I've let a man dictate what I'm fucking doing. I have, they'll be like, I think you should play some like hip hop or whatever. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna, but not right now. That's, I'm gonna get to it when I'm gonna get to it.
Yeah.
And, it's like someone comes up and they're like, oh, play Bad Bunny. I'm like, I will, but not now. When I feel like it's the right moment, I'll play Bad Bunny. Not that there's ever a bad moment for Bad Bunny, but, So I think that usually I've had some of those, every time I've gotten off of a gig and been like, I hated that, it was because, for some reason, I panicked maybe, and someone told me to switch up the vibe and play something different. And I didn't really agree, but maybe I panicked and I kind of like switched up the vibe because they told me to, and then it was not the right move. So that's kind of a little bit on me, to be honest. But as far as just a totally bad vibe, I probably just wiped it from my memory. So it doesn't exist in there anymore.
So in stand-up comedy, like after every show, at least one guy comes up to me and is like, my friends told me I should do stand-up comedy. Do you have that while DJing? Like some guy comes up and he's like, my friends think I'd be good at this. You're like, then fucking do it.
Oh, they all. So the cool thing about being a female DJ is that if you don't want to work, you don't have to. There is always a man who wants to DJ. Always. So actually, if the vibe is awful, pass it off to some random dude. Yeah. It is crazy. It was even one of my friends who I love, great guy, and great DJ, fantastic DJ, good producer. And we were both playing a private party type thing, and he was playing longer than I was. I kind of had like an hour set, and he was kind of playing the whole night. And I really amped up the energy. Everyone's dancing. So then he'd been playing kind of for background music for a long time. So then he's like, oh. And I have an hour set. He has the control of the decks the whole night. I have an hour set. And he comes up to me and he's like, he's drunk. Everyone's having a good time. But he's like, you were like, oh, you knew I could play a song? I looked at him. He immediately knew. He goes, oh my God, I'm so fucking sorry. And I was like, I didn't even have to say anything. I just looked at him and he was like, yeah, that was out of line. And I was like, so there is always some dude who is just waiting to like get in there. And I forget where did we start with? Oh yeah, so guys coming in and being like, oh yeah, I should be a DJ. But it's kind of like, sometimes it used to bother me because I would be like, why are you in my space or whatever? Like, but now I kind of like, I just use them. If I want to get off early, I'm like, yeah,
Get up there.
Or I just tell them like, I was playing something recently and a guy came up, he was like, oh, so like the DJ before said like, I could like plug in. And I was like, why don't you go ask like the people who are running the event? Because I was like, I really don't give a shit. Like, I'm getting my check regardless. So, and this isn't like some big show where I have some like specific plan. So like, but like, no, I'm not gonna just let you. I don't know who you are. So yeah, that pretty much happens every single time without fail. But I've just learned to see it as a benefit, where I go, I ain't gonna jump on if I'm like hating the vibe. I'm like, yeah, you fucking do it.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. Where can the fans find you?
On the normal Twitter or X. I don't know. I don't really use that much anymore. Instagram. It's all at Carter Cruise like cruise ship. And I do have a TikTok that I will eventually, in my mind, start posting on. But it's like a little. There's a lot of fake accounts. It's like little CC baby or something.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know my own TikTok handle. But yeah, it's not the Carter Cruise one. That person's a fucking scammer. So they will ask for your credit card information.
There you go. Well, also, what about your music?
Oh, I mean, on Spotify, Audius, all my mixes. Haven't put out anything in a minute, but we got a lot of stuff in the works for next year. So, yeah.
Do you have any?
I got a song about making your titties bounce.
Nice. Yeah. Do you have any shows coming up?
I mean, a few. I mean, I don't know when this will come
never
out.
mind.
Yeah.
I feel
I feel like it's right before the holidays. So I mean, there's a handful by the time this comes out. Probably.
When we release it in the description, I'll put like up to date dates for your shows
perfect.
coming
Yeah,
out.
that's sick. Yeah, right. I was like, I feel like, I mean, like next week, but sorry, you guys missed it.
Well then. And you guys know where to find me. And thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you, Carter, for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It is always a pleasure.
Yay.